Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
All right, Vikings Vent Line every weekend here on the Purple Daily YouTube channel and podcast feed. This is a show for Vikings fans, so maybe you're discovering Purple Daily, or have you recently discovered Purple Daily in the last few weeks, or maybe even this year or so. Every week I'd like to talk to as many Vikings fans as possible throughout the off season, that is, and then during the regular season we do Vikings Vent Line with Mackie, Judd, and myself, where we bring in a boatload of fans for about 90 minutes, but in the off season I still like to check in with Vikings fans. So if this is something you'd like to be a part of on a future episode, please don't hesitate to reach out. It's vikingsventline@gmail.com. That's the email to send a request in. I monitor those, so if you'd like to be on a future episode, hit me up. It's vikingsventline@gmail.com. A reminder that Standard Heating, of course, is the presenting sponsor, or of not the presenting sponsor, but a proud sponsor of Purple Daily and Vikings Vent Line. For all those HVAC needs, don't DIY that. Let the experts handle that. That's what I did. I let Standard Heating come into my rental property. That's right, they can come into rental spots too. I also let them come in here to make sure I was getting the right furnace and my HVAC was in a good shape before I bought my first house. So they can help you out with that type of stuff too. So go to standardheating.com to make sure everything is in tip-top shape. They will handle it for you. Let the experts at Standard Heating take care of that for you. All right, Vikings Vent Line on Purple Daily, daily Vikings entertainment, where you want to see the Vikings win a Super Bowl before we die. Let's get our guys Mitchell and Alec in here on Vikings Vent Line. Fellas, thanks for coming on. Mitchell, you're making your first appearance on Vikings Vent Line, correct?
Yep.
Nice.
Yes, I am.
And then are you in Minnesota? Are you somewhere else? Where are you at?
I'm in Woodbury. I spent the college year in River Falls.
Okay. Very nice.
Woodbury.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I was for 2 years. I live on the east side of St. Paul now, so very familiar with that area. And then, Alec, are you here in Minnesota? Are you somewhere else?
I'm actually in Denver now, so
Okay.
been out here a few years now. So
Nice. So you're able to watch Purple Sunday Ticket, go to the bars. What do you? I know there's like Vikings fans are kind of scattered all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
What do you do? What do you do for Sundays, or how do you watch games?
typically Red Zone at home, but there's a Vikings bar downtown, so I'll hit that up occasionally as well. Done the playoff games and the overseas games. I'll open at 7 a.m. for that, so that's always nice.
Yeah, it is super nice. Well, you get back-to-back this year with two 8 a.m. games, so that's going to be or 8:30 games, I think. So that'll be a little bit of an adjustment. All right, guys, let's start here. Mitchell, why don't you give us your hottest Vikings take? What's been percolating on your mind here as we've been now 3 or 4 months into the offseason? What is your hottest Vikings take?
Yeah, so my hottest take, just thinking about our defense and our D-line specifically with Dallas Turner. I really liked what I saw on the field when he was out there. I think he's going to learn a lot behind the two guys we picked up in free agency, and obviously Van Ginkel and Grenard. And even once we lose Flores, which will happen, I think he's learning a lot from that. So I'm going to say that he will win Defensive Player of the Year.
Oh, wow.
Eventually. Probably in the next
Eventually.
3 years.
Oh, okay. Eventually. I got you.
Not this year. Not quite. But
I got
he
you.
will win Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, I like that one. I mean, obviously the Vikes traded up for him, just played kind of sparingly his rookie season, and he's kind of was buried there a little bit in the depth chart. And now I think we'll get some more opportunities. Pat Jones gone. You know, heaven forbid something does happen to Van Ginkel or Grenard. He's kind of the next man up. And a Defensive Player of the Year, I like that. I mean, the Vikings have had a lot of good defensive players that have come through, at least recently. I had a lot of guys that can rush the quarterback, from Danielle Hunter recently, the guys even like Jared Allen, who's going to the Hall of Fame. So I like that one. So Dallas Turner, a Hall of Famer. I like it. Or not a Hall of Famer, sorry, an MVP that maybe becomes a Hall of Famer.
Maybe both.
Yeah, why not both? I like it. Alec, how about you, man? What is your hottest Vikings take?
Yeah, so mine's got to do with this year. I think if the Vikings had anyone else at quarterback, this team would be nationally talked about as a top 3 team in the NFC. But because of the rookie quarterback, because we haven't seen him ever, nobody nationally is talking about this team being good, really. At least it doesn't seem like it. And I think if there was a different quarterback, no matter really even who it was, they'd be considered a top 3 team this year.
Yeah, and with the NFL, like, because sometimes with like the NBA or even Major League Baseball, as happens, you know, the big markets like New York and LA naturally get talked about a lot. Well, in the NFL, you have markets in Green Bay, Wisconsin, you know, Buffalo, Minnesota. These aren't necessarily, and Minnesota's a top 15 market, so I don't mean to sell them too short, but there's areas basically where no one else is ever talking about that city nationally for any other sports reason. But people talk about the Bills a lot. People talk about the Packers a lot. And with the Vikings, they have this guard up because there's a quarterback that sat or missed his entire rookie year. It still hasn't played an actual snap in a regular season game. Yeah, I mean, I know we got some pushback on this earlier, and I get that Packers fans, Vikings fans don't like Packers fans, but if like Jordan Love was on the Vikings, I do think people would be talking about him more. Like 100%.
For sure.
Plug and play different quarterback. And I know people love to talk about the Cowboys, but same thing with maybe even like Dak Prescott. If you want to use that lightning rod, like I think it would be a similar thing to what you're talking about, Alec, where they'd have a lot more attention.
Basically, yeah, any quarterback that's played effectively, if they were on this team, like if they had, kept Darnold or, maybe even signed like Flacco or something like that, I think it'd be talked about at least for sure in the top 5 of the NFC, but it seems like nobody's giving them that sort of run for sure.
Right. Let's actually jump ships here a little bit to a different topic because it kind of transitions well from what we were just talking about from Alec there. Who do you guys think, and Mitchell, I'll start with you, who are the best teams in the NFC right now? Like, do you give it to the Eagles because they went to the Super Bowl? Like, who are the best teams right now in this conference?
Yeah, I think the Eagles are obviously the top dogs, but, they lost a lot of pieces, and it's hard to repeat. I like the Commanders. I think if you were to project someone to take a step back, you could project them, but sometimes good quarterbacks are just good, and I think Jaden Daniels might just be that guy. So I might put the Commanders number 1, and I'd have the Vikings no lower than number 4.
Yeah. So in the NFC North, then, do you still have the Lions or Packers above the Vikings right now?
It's between the Lions and Vikings. I think the Packers and Vikings could come down to head-to-head, and then the Lions and Vikings will have a 1-win difference. Who knows where it'll go? So
no buying of the Bears stock, at least from you, not yet. At least not
the
yet.
Bears gotta prove it. They gotta prove it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's always a prove it year for the Bears. Yeah, I think that's probably fair. Nationally, to Alex's point here, I don't think the Vikings in a pecking order or in a power ranking of just NFC teams. I don't know if they slide in 4th, but there's certainly a world where they could be. It's just so wide open, the conference is. And yeah, maybe we are selling Philadelphia short. They've been to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. They did lose a lot of pieces, and you should naturally probably give them the benefit of the doubt that they can go and get it back there. But, San Francisco's in this weird spot. Everyone else in the NFC East, maybe the Commanders, are fine, but Giants are not there by any means. So, yeah, the whole conference, you could do like a randomizer, I feel like, for the NFC title game. And I don't think anyone, take away the Giants and maybe the Bears. And I don't think anyone would be that surprised if you just randomize right now the NFC title game. And you could say, yeah, I could see both those two teams, obviously, in there. Alec, How about you, though? Who are the best teams to you in the NFC right now?
Yeah, very similar. I think Philadelphia, until somebody knocks them off or they kind of prove to fall back, they're number 1 for sure. Lions, I would say Lions, Packers, and Vikings have got to be in like the top 7-ish. So it's kind of wild that there's 3 NFC North teams that would be considered, playoff teams again. I'm not buying the Bears stock yet until they prove it. Especially new coach, new system. I think it's at least a year away for them to do anything. But San Francisco, kind of a coin flip. We saw what happened last year with injuries. They've kind of lost some stuff. They're kind of that team, I think, that's dragging old now, and it's we'll see kind of where they end up if age starts to become a huge factor. Nobody out of the NFC South really scares you, except maybe Tampa, kind of. But we'll see. Carolina's was a mess. They're better, but we'll see if they get any better. New Orleans is going to be garbage. The Giants are just the Giants. So it's kind of a mess in the NFC, really. There's no clear cut, top 4 teams that are just going to run away with it, I don't think.
Yeah, I know the Eagles and Commanders were in the NFC title game last year, the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. You could totally make a case that the second place team, I think we can give the benefit to the Eagles being the top team in the NFC just because, but you could make a case for 5 different teams probably being the second best team or the second biggest threat in this conference. The South, outside of the Bucks, who Baker's had a really good resurgence there. They've won some playoff games, so okay. But that division as a whole is probably going to be really garbage this year. And maybe Matthew Stafford and the Rams, again, are they on the wrong side of the age curve where they have a great head coach and quarterback combo, which is deadly, but I could see them going 12-5, and I could see them maybe going 7-11, right? Like I can see, or 7-10, I can see them going both those paths. So it's completely wide open, which I think is good news also if you're a Vikings fan, because if you're in the AFC, I think this conversation is completely different, right? I mean, if you got to go against or just go look up against Lamar, all the 5 best quarterbacks basically are in the AFC from Mahomes and Allen and Lamar and Burrow. So thankfully the Vikings are on the other good side of that conference. Mitchell, who are some other Vikings players this year? And I know JJ McCarthy, we're all excited to watch, but
Yep.
you mentioned Dallas Turner, maybe winning an MVP one day, but this season, who are some other players that you're looking forward to watching on the Vikings this year?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the defense. So we talk a lot about the rookie contract with quarterbacks. Well, I think our cornerback room it's cheap. We've got Dwight McGlothern, who was undrafted, Mekhi Blackman, who was hurt last year, coming in. I think if these guys can just play decent, the whole room should be better than people are talking about it. You know what I mean, and with Isaiah Rodgers, if Brian Flores is right, he plays a big role. I don't think that room is as weak as it looks.
Last season, I thought it was going to be like a problem. And I guess maybe towards the end of the year, it became a little bit of an issue, but it would actually probably even outperformed, I think, most fans or even people that follow the team's expectations for it, just because it was kind of you're slapping Shaq Griffin in there. Got Stephon Gilmore in there. It just oh boy, this could be really bad. Ends up actually being totally fine. They gave the big payday to Byron Murphy Jr. Isaiah Rodgers isn't here breaking the bank, and if someone between Blackman or even Dwight McGlothern, who's a UDFA last year that has stuck around and is still kind of turning heads here, that actually could be a totally fine position. It's hard to play cornerback in the NFL now, right? It's almost impossible with flags and just the league being geared towards offense. And it's also, you bring up a good point, Mitchell, on rookie scale contracts. It's also, I don't think, a position where you should be paying multiple guys big time money. Pay Byron Murphy. Pay one guy, fine, totally okay. Pay multiple guys a big bag, and I think you're putting yourself behind the 8 ball from a salary cap standpoint. Mm-hmm. So good one on the defense too, which I know the offense gets a lot of attention. But Alec, how about you, man? What other Vikings players this year are you excited to watch?
Yeah, I'm going to stay on the defensive side just because, really the only question mark I kind of see on offense is McCarthy, and I think he's going to be just fine. But I'm excited to watch the new, not necessarily a person, but a group, the D line. With the upgrades and the changes there, the interior. It seemed like we kind of trashed the run defense a little bit last year, but at the end of the year, looking at total rush yards allowed per game, they were second. So I think we gave them a little bit too little credit on the defensive line, at least from run protection standpoint. So hopefully they can get more pressure on the quarterback in the middle, more push on the passing side, and hopefully if that gets better too and the rush defense stays at least decent, I mean, top 5, top 3 defense, easy. They were already close last year, really. And so if they could just kind of lock up the pass defense with some better rush, because I think that was probably their biggest problem, was lack of any sort of pressure on the quarterback. And they were just getting killed by the 2 losses in the regular season, or 3, were to quarterbacks getting the ball out quick. That was really the biggest thing. So if they can just get a little bit more pressure early, I think we'll be better off. So
the defensive line, to your point too, they were a little better last year, but it's still an area of weakness. And once you start kind of just chipping away at 4 or 5 yard runs up the middle, and then you have a quick assassin at quarterback that can just get the ball out quickly, that's going to be an issue for any defense. It just keeps them on the field for a long time, which is what we kind of saw in those Rams games last year, especially in the playoff one, where the offense has 5 trips to the red zone in the first quarter and a half, and they can't convert. And then eventually, the defense was doing just fine in that department, and they eventually get gassed because it becomes a time of possession game. So, getting after the quarterback quicker, stopping the run quicker. The Vikings have made some bets there. I know there's some veterans, so maybe there's some uncertainty there that they're past the hill. But I like what they've done there on the defensive line, and I think long-term, maybe going into next year's draft, they do probably address that as they try to sew up some dudes in the middle there. I like it. Before we wrap up here, Mitchell, any other last takes, any other shout-outs here you'd love to give on Vikings Vent Line? The floor is yours.
If I had a last take, just don't underestimate McCarthy. We were talking about how you could put anybody back there. I think he's anybody. So, with what Kevin O'Connell can do with quarterbacks, I think he's going to be great. Shout outs, obviously, my dad got me into the Vikings. My roommate, Packers fan, we get into some heated debates, but keep it civilized. It's all right. And then what really got me into paying attention to the stats and other teams was my fantasy league with my dad and my uncle. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy how I don't play season fantasy much anymore. I do it during weekly and stuff, but I will say sometimes when you get away from that, from not playing like the season fantasy football, it's like kind of hard to remember some running backs here and there. We're like when you're a football encyclopedia playing fantasy football, worrying about the Jaguars RB2 situation because there's a bye week coming up, makes you just ingrained into the NFL.
Sure.
Love that. Alec, how about you, man? Any last takes? Any shout outs here on Vent Line?
Yeah, I'll kind of echo Mitchell here. I think McCarthy is actually going to break the rookie yardage total. It's the list isn't crazy. I was looking it up. I think there's only 3 guys that were over 1,500 yards as a rookie. And Bridgewater leads the way at 2,900. So I think he's going to crush that. I think he'll be over that easy. The Vikings are so weird. They have basically 0 like real rookie quarterbacks that played. Most of them were either second year or third year guys. But I think he's going to end up, he'll break, quote unquote, break the rookie yardage record this year. So,
yeah, it's a good one. Any shout outs here?
Yeah. Parents, my wife, she puts up with all my football shenanigans, all the fantasy football I play. And actually, we just had our son just turned 1 last week. So I've brought a new tortured Vikings fan into this world. So exciting getting him into that. But yeah, and you guys, of course. You're my connection to Minnesota sports, really back home, living in Denver here. So listen to you guys basically daily, podcast form. So thanks for doing what you do.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. And appreciate your son for entering this world of pain. Maybe
Yes.
he's only entering a new world, right, with J.J. McCarthy, and he only knows like a Patriots dynasty or a Chiefs dynasty that's incoming. Maybe he knows that.
Fingers
Maybe that's all
crossed.
he knows. Fingers crossed is right. Well, dudes, thank you so much for coming on Vikings Vent Line. Great takes here. Anyone listening, watching, that you want to come on a future episode to sling some stuff like these guys did, hit me up. It's VikingsVentLine@gmail.com. Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment where we just want to see the Vikings win a Super Bowl before we die.